Okay, let's dive into one of the greatest stories ever told. I mean, it's got everything. Slavery, an incredible liberation, and this display of divine power that literally forges a nation's identity. And this isn't just some dusty old history lesson. It's really the foundational epic of freedom itself. So let's get into the story of the Exodus.
So the whole thing really kicks off with this incredibly defiant challenge. You have Pharaoh, right? The most powerful man on the planet, basically considered a god by his own people. And he just asks, flat out, who is the Lord? The rest of the story, well, it's pretty much the answer to that question. You see, right from the get-go, this isn't just a political squabble. It's a divine showdown.
All right, so how did we even get to this point? Let's back up and set the scene in Egypt. It's kind of interesting, the word Pharaoh actually means great house. And that great house, well, it had a big, growing problem right in its own backyard.
So what you've got here are two forces just colliding. On one side, you have the Israelites, and their population is just exploding. I mean, this is a direct fulfillment of the promise God made to Abraham. They're absolutely thriving. But then on the other side, a new dynasty, a new Pharaoh comes to power. And the text makes a point to say he did not know Joseph. What that means is that whole history of goodwill, gone. He looks at this booming population and he doesn't see a blessing. No, he sees a ticking time bomb, a potential fifth column that could team up with his enemies at any moment.
Okay, so Pharaoh cooks up this three-part plan to deal with his problem. First up, step one, oppression. He decides to crush them with brutal forced labor. The goal? Break their spirits, slow down their growth. But here's the thing, it backfires. The more they're oppressed, the more they multiply. So he escalates. Step two, covert murder. He secretly orders the Hebrew midwives to kill all the baby boys at birth. But the midwives, well, they fear God more than they fear Pharaoh, so that plan fails too. Finally, he gets desperate and just goes public with it. Step three, a public edict. He commands all Egyptians to throw every single newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile. It's just this brutal, escalating series of failures, one after the other. And yet, right in the middle of all this state-sponsored terror, from the very river that was supposed to be a graveyard, that's where the hero of our story emerges. Okay, this next detail is just brilliant. The baby's mother puts him in a wicker basket. Now get this, the Hebrew word for that basket is teva, and that word is only used one other time in the entire Old Testament, for Noah's Ark. I mean, just think about that for a second. One teva saves humanity from a flood, and now this tiny little teva is going to save God's people from genocide. And then the irony is just off the charts. Who finds him? The daughter of the very man who ordered his death. You can't make this stuff up. So Moses' life basically plays out in three 40-year acts. It's really fascinating. For the first 40 years, you've got the Prince of Egypt. He's raised in the royal court, powerful, well-educated, a real somebody. But then, after he kills an Egyptian, he's on the run. For the next 40 years, he's a fugitive, a humble shepherd in the middle of nowhere. It's this incredible humbling process. And only then, at 80 years old, when all that princely self-reliance is completely gone, is he finally ready for what God has for him. And that call, wow, it comes in the most dramatic way you can imagine. He sees a bush that's on fire, completely engulfed in flames, but it's not burning up, it's just there. And it's here that God reveals his personal, covenant name, Yahweh. I am that I am. And you have to understand, this isn't just a title, it's this profound statement. It means he is the eternally self-existent one, the God who is, who was, and who always will be. He's the one who makes promises and, crucially, has the absolute power to keep them.
So you'd think, after an encounter like that, Moses would be raring to go, right? Nope, not at all. He is a man just filled with self-doubt. He comes up with four big objections, basically four excuses. He says, who am I to do this? Then, okay, who should I even say sent me? Then it's, what if they don't believe me? And finally, he just says, look, I'm not a good speaker. I'm slow of speech. This is not the same confident prince from 40 years ago. This is a man who knows, deep down, that he absolutely cannot do this on his own.
Okay, so with Moses reluctantly on board, the stage is finally set for the ultimate confrontation. And let's be clear, this is about way more than just freeing slaves. This is a battle of wills. It's Yahweh versus the gods of Egypt, and Pharaoh is their champion. Now, the 10 plagues aren't just random disasters, not at all. Think of them as targeted surgical strikes against the entire Egyptian pantheon of gods. Yahweh turns the Nile, which they worshipped as a god, into blood. He unleashes swarms of frogs, directly mocking their frog-headed goddess of fertility, Heqet. He plunges the whole land into a terrifying darkness that their super-powerful sun god Ra can't do a thing about.
And that final devastating plague? It's aimed right at Pharaoh himself, the supposed god on earth, and his heir. Every single plague was a direct message, a powerful declaration saying, your gods are powerless. And here's the absolute key to understanding all of this. God tells Pharaoh straight up why this is all happening. It's not just for Israel. It's not even just for Egypt. The whole point is to put the power and the name of Yahweh on display for the entire world to see. In a way, Pharaoh's own stubbornness becomes the very stage where God demonstrates his absolute power.
All right, after 9 of these devastating blows, the will of the entire Egyptian empire is finally about to crack. The 10th and final plague, that's the one that's going to trigger the Great Departure.
But this final judgment also comes with this incredible act of deliverance, the Passover. Here's the instruction. Each family has to take a perfect, unblemished lamb, sacrifice it, and then paint its blood on their doorposts. It's all about redemption through a substitute. The blood is basically a sign that says a life has already been given here. It's an act of pure faith in God's word, trusting that when the angel of death sweeps through Egypt, he'll see the blood and literally pass over that house, sparing the firstborn inside.
And then it happens. After 430 years, the text says to the very day, the chains are finally broken. Pharaoh, who's just lost his own son, doesn't just let them go, he actually begs them to leave. Imagine that. The weight of 4 centuries of slavery and waiting is just over in a single night. But that freedom is tested almost immediately. Of course, Pharaoh changes his mind, and suddenly his army, we're talking the most feared military machine in the world, is bearing down on them. And the Israelites, they are completely, totally trapped. You've got the huge Red Sea in front of them and Pharaoh's chariots closing in behind. That incredible feeling of freedom, it just evaporates and turns into pure terror. They're convinced they're about to be annihilated. And right at this moment of absolute panic, Moses says one of the most powerful things in the entire story. He tells the people, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. He's telling them to just stop, be quiet, and watch. This isn't their fight. Their part is done. Now, they're about to see what God can do. It's this total shift, right? From human panic to divine action. So after that miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, after the entire Egyptian army is destroyed, the physical journey out of Egypt is over. They're free. But the journey to becoming a nation, oh, that was just getting started. See, their destination was never just anywhere but Egypt. It was always a specific place, Mount Sinai. This is where God had told Moses, you will come back here to worship me. This mountain is the spot where this huge group of freed slaves is going to be officially formed into a nation, with a purpose, a mission, and a constitution handed down from God himself. So at Sinai, God offers them a covenant, which is like a binding agreement. And with it comes this incredible threefold identity. He says, first, you'll be my special treasure above all other nations. Second, you'll be a kingdom of priests. Your job is to represent me to the rest of the world. And third, you'll be a holy nation, meaning you're set apart. You live differently by my standards. And how do the people respond? With a unanimous yes. They shout, all that the Lord has commanded, we will do. It's a super enthusiastic, confident promise. I mean, they've just seen God's incredible power, so of course they're ready to sign up. But they might have just slightly overestimated their ability to actually keep that promise.
And that really brings us to the final, crucial question of this whole story. They were free from slavery, right? Free from the whips of Egypt. But were they ready to handle the responsibility of being free for the law of God? Because escaping bondage, that's one thing. But learning how to live as a free and holy nation, well, that's a whole different challenge. And it's a challenge that's going to define the rest of their story.